Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Two Charlottes Spill the Tea. Myself and Charlotte are actually really excited about this episode this week because it's something we are both massively passionate about, and that is self-development, personal development, and growth. As you know, if you've listened to our other podcasts, both of us have had to work really hard on personal development through our lives to get to the position that we find ourselves in today, which is pretty stable, I would say, from some of the places that we both started from. It seems like a whole different life, a whole different person when I look back on, my past, and I'm pretty sure Charlotte feels the same way when she looks back on her past now. So we wanted to talk to you guys today about personal development, maybe the art of saying no, how to set healthy boundaries in your life with your relationships with other people, and not to be a people pleaser. And actually, something that we were both we both randomly stumbled across the same doctor, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And I heard him a couple of days ago, and I was like, "Oh, I have to tell Charlotte all about this guy." And then, as I was telling you about it yesterday, you were like, "Yes, that's the same doctor I was telling you about." And it's just, another one of those synchronicities that we've stumbled on. But the whole point of me telling you about this doctor is because he did I write down his name somewhere? I think I did. But he did a talk which I tuned into very randomly on YouTube, which was about chronic illness in caregivers and people who constantly people please and don't look after their own emotional needs and physical needs, and how they can become quite ill with it. And we started talking about that with each other, and we were talking about how hard it can be to set those boundaries and to reach that level of kind of growth in yourself as a person, that you feel safe and secure enough in yourself to be able to set those boundaries. So it was something that we wanted to talk to you about today, wasn't it, Charlotte?
yeah, no, definitely. And I think both of us will agree that without personal development and, working on these things and going through the healing journey, I don't think either of us would be sat here recording this podcast because
Oh no.
I think if it wasn't for stumbling across, self-development books and personal development books and working on mindset and healing, all the kind of broken parts and all of that side of things, I don't think I'd have been able to be like, yeah, I'm clean, sober, and stable. But I
Yeah.
don't think that would have happened without, you know, doing the whole personal development. But it's interesting when you then look at the science of it. So when you were listening to the lecture that Dr. Gabor Mate was talking about how, in caregivers and people pleasers and how it like actually affects your DNA and the makeup of your body, it's crazy to think that actually we could be doing ourselves such damage by just trying to be a nice person and please everyone and make everybody
Yeah.
happy. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy to think that doing something nice when you're taught as a kid always to be nice and kind and helpful and this, that, and the other, and actually we could have been damaging ourselves this entire time.
Yeah, by putting our own needs on the back burner,
Mm,
we could actually be even shortening our lifespans. Is crazy because, just like you
mm,
just said there, I mean, I was always told, it costs nothing to be kind, but
yeah,
then you find out that actually it can cost you,
your life.
so much. It can cost you your life. Yeah. So I suppose what people want to know the most is, what is personal development and how do you even get into it? I remember when I first started network marketing,
Yeah.
the whole personal development thing was talked about, like, oh, you have to do your personal development. And I remember thinking, what do they mean? what is personal development? I hadn't realized that that is what I'd been doing my entire life, just, trying to make myself be a better person and feel better and get through everything that I'd gone through. But I just remember thinking, what am I supposed to do? How
Yeah.
do I do that? And
I,
it
I was exactly the same because it was one of those like things that it was part of the non-negotiables. You must do it every day, do something for personal development, either, reading a book or listening to a podcast or an audible or something. And I always thought, well, I don't understand, like, what is it you have to do? Like, what
Yeah.
does that actually do? And then when I'm like, well, hang on a minute, I have actually been doing that this whole time. Like, getting off drugs was personal development. Like, I had to work
Yeah.
through that. And it's all about just, yeah, working through your insecurities, your, the things that cause you internal pain. It's working through those. Like, that would be my understanding of personal development and growth, is working through your internal struggles.
Yeah, I really like that definition of it, and 100% I would agree. And when you were saying that, I was just thinking then, in order to be able to develop yourself as a person, you really have to get to know yourself.
Mm,
And you have to be like so truthful with yourself. And I know it's like easy to say that. And I can remember when I did when I learned Reiki, my Reiki master kept saying to me, "You're like an onion, Charlotte. Just imagine all these layers of you that you have to go through and learn every part of you to be able to get to the core of who you are and to grow and develop as a person." And that means that is actually quite a lot of work, because it means that you have to come to terms with all of you, and that is the parts of you that you're not happy with as well, instead of just ignoring those parts, brushing them under the carpet and pretending like they're not really there. Oh, I know that I can be mean sometimes or deceitful sometimes, or I know that I didn't like the way I behaved, with those people, that like actually owning up to those parts of yourself and understanding why you did those things. And,
mm.
really, like I said, really getting to know yourself is a huge part of personal development, because until you really know who you are, how can you develop and grow into the best version of you? If you don't know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, where your power is, then you can't grow those parts of you. So I definitely think the first thing you have to do when it comes to personal development is take a very long, hard, and honest look at yourself as a person.
Yeah, I complete
And figure out.
I complete
Sorry,
I com
carry on.
No, sorry. I completely agree that there's, the first step in personal development is taking a look internally and being like, yeah, I wasn't didn't handle that situation very well. So then you really want to look at, why didn't you? What was it about that situation that made you behave irrationally or aggressively or whatever it was? And sometimes that's not very nice. Like, that's not a very pleasant thing to have to do.
Yeah,
But I think, and again, like, if you've listened to the podcasts that we've done before this one, you'll realize that actually a lot of the stuff you have to go through isn't very nice to get to the fun stuff at the
yeah.
other side. Like, and actually,
Yeah,
personal
yeah,
development is great. And I am all for self-development, and, self-help books are my favorite thing to buy. Like, but now it's a fun thing. When I first started doing it, it probably wasn't as fun,
yeah.
but it is really beneficial.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you have to fess up to, I suppose, that you would rather not really, pay attention to. Otherwise, like I had to understand that I had attachment issues. I was a very needy person. I had a lot of insecurities in myself to work through before, I could get onto the fun thing as well. So I suppose like it's questions that you have to ask yourself when you first start on your personal development journey, which would be even things like, what makes you feel fulfilled? What qualities do you admire in other people?
Mm.
What qualities do you admire in yourself? Or what behaviors bother you from other people? And I think generally the things that we admire in other people reflect back the things that we admire in ourselves as well. Like those are
Mm.
obviously traits that are very important to us. So I think the same could be said for the other way around as well. If you notice things in other people that bother you and upset you or stress you out, it could be because they're things that you recognize in yourself as well.
So, do you know, honestly, like, that makes so much sense to me, all that of, everything that you've been saying. Like, But what would you say for you now? Because obviously we all still do personal development. It's never something that you just stop doing. Like, what would you class as your personal development now? What are the things that you still do?
So for me, I think, I'm always evolving as a person. Like there is everything I'm coming into, at each stage of my life is a new experience for me. So at the moment, it would be being a parent to a teenager, as well as two younger children as well, and one child who's flown the coop, so to speak. So it's going through those kinds of things, how I'm dealing with them, and just how I watch myself. That sounds weird, but at the end of each day, things I do is look back over the day and I think about the different things that I've gone through and that I've done. How did I deal with that situation? Was I happy with the way I dealt with that situation at the time? What could I have done better? How would I feel if I was on the receiving end of, me in that situation? So things like that are things for me that are really important, because I'm always something I've written down about personal development is learning who you are, but the you are constantly evolving. So for me, it's constantly paying attention to the way I'm acting, and being mindful and present in my everyday situations. Constantly learning to love myself, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something that I will ever, say 100% I fully love myself, because sometimes I act or I say things and do things and afterwards I think, no, I didn't like the way I did that. So constantly learning to love myself and focusing on what I feed my mind, my body and soul.
Yeah.
So these are things for me that are part of my daily personal development, and to be honest, it's so ingrained into my daily routine. It's something that I constantly do. So I'm very mindful of what I read, of what I watch, of what I listen to, of what I eat, of what I drink, of how I exercise and look after my body. I'm very mindful of how I look after my state of mind, and my spiritual side as well, with my meditations and my spiritual practices. So I am very mindful of all of those things. And for me, that's a huge part of personal development. And probably one of the biggest things I've had to learn in my life, apart from learning to love myself, is the art of, being able to say no to people and not being a people pleaser, setting healthy boundaries. That's something I've struggled with because I've always felt the need to be a people pleaser. I've always felt the need to, put other people's wants before my own. And I think part of that is probably due to, my experiences in life, and my attachment issues. But it's something that I've been, recently really being able to do. And I used to really struggle with saying no to people at my own detriment very, very often. So that for me has been a huge part of my personal development. So yeah, those practices, is, that's my day to day. It's non-negotiable. It's woven into my routine.
Mm.
I don't know whether that makes sense to you, or if that's the same sort of things that you would be doing.
Yeah, do you know, so a lot of the things that you said are very similar things. One thing that I did just write down was that you were saying you do like a daily review of everything that's happened and how you responded, and did you like the way you dealt with that situation? And that's not something I do. I do daily gratitude and
Yeah,
journaling and kind of, write out things that I'm feeling and work through stuff that way. But I like the idea of doing like a daily review as part of your evening journaling. So I'm definitely gonna steal that one. Thank you very much. Um, but
that's my business mind coming out there. Reviews.
yeah, literally that's your business head popping out. But I like that because, when you do go through personal development, you go through, self-help and all this kind of stuff, you are an ever-changing person because that's the whole point. The whole point is to become the best version of
Yeah,
yourself, but to get there, you have to get through all of the different stages first.
yeah,
And if you consistently do the same things because it worked originally, they won't actually, you'll kind of plateau. I think when it comes to the self-development side of things, you'll get to a point where you have to do different things. You have to
yeah,
add different things into your daily day to day because you've worked through that. So that practice may no longer serve you in the version that you are now. Like, and
Absolutely.
for me, 100% knowledge is power. When it comes to working through anything, reading is healing, like
Yeah.
learning is healing. Like, and I am all for self-development books, personal development books. I listen to ridiculous amounts of podcasts and YouTube videos, and like my social media, I follow all the different kind of inspirational leaders and spiritual teachers and motivational speakers, and like what you're kind of filling yourself with is the most important. So like what you were saying about what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're eating, what you're drinking, like it's so important to be
Yeah.
putting all of the right stuff in, because and this like kind of I think goes on to one of the things that we were talking about, is like it's also the people who are in your life and who you surround yourself with. Because if you fill your daily life and your brain with negativity and anger and stress and pressure and drama and gossip and all of those low vibration emotions, then you're going to be a low vibration person.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you need to fill yourself with everything that's on a high vibration.
Yeah.
I try really hard not to watch the news unless I absolutely have to, because, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be sat nodding. During COVID, all we did was watch the news, because
Yeah.
that's where you were going to find out what was going on. That was where you were going to know whether or not you were allowed to go out the house today. And
Yeah.
I was so depressed during furlough and COVID, because I was furloughed by myself. Ross and I were living together at this point, but he wasn't furloughed. So he was still going out to work because he worked in retail and they could social distance and all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I was at home on my own all the time watching the news. It was like, honestly, like I should have known better. Like I really, really should have known better. But it made such a massive difference. And then I was like, no, I'm going to use this time to be productive. I'm going to come out of this furlough lockdown time having done something better. And that's when I started a new network marketing business. I started exercising and looking after my nutrition and being healthy and feeding my brain with positivity and uplifting motivational stuff all the time. And lo and behold, I became a happier person and lost five
Yeah.
stone. So I was chuffed.
Wow. That's incredible. That's not easy to do.
No, it is not.
But I totally agree. And what you were saying there, about what you're feeding your body, your diet is not just what you eat and drink. It's so much more than that. Like, human beings don't just work on a physical level. We have a spiritual, emotional, mental, side to us as well. And that can't really be ignored, because when we talk about healing journeys and personal development journeys, it's such a holistic thing. And holistic means on all planes, on all levels. You're talking your physical, your spiritual, your emotional side. And what you pay attention to, you become aware of. And I think I've said this before on one of our podcasts, but that phrase, that quote is so important, because if you are focused on negativity, if you're surrounded by people that love drama, or if your five best friends all get divorced, the chances are you're going to get divorced next. If you're surrounded by people that love drama and arguments and stress, the chances are that's what's in your life, because what you pay attention to, you become aware of. And the more you pay attention to those kind of things, the more you emit the frequency that that's what you want in your life,
The
and the
more of
more
it
you
you'll
get.
get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're constantly wanting better, and that's the frequency that you're putting out, you will constantly want better but never
Yeah.
achieve it, because you are not focused the right way. So energy operates on frequency levels, and what you pay attention to, you become aware of. So when you focus your attention on learning who you are and learning to love that person, making better choices in what you eat, what you drink, how you move in a day, what you read, the energy you're putting into your body, when you start focusing that on positive things and you start growing yourself as a person in that way, you start focusing more on that, you become more aware of those things in your life, and things do get better. Now, I'm not, when we talk about manifestation and the law of attraction, so many people don't really understand it. They think that if they constantly think about having the things they want, then they'll magically appear in their life. But that's not what the law of attraction is. The law of attraction and the attitude of gratitude is really about paying attention and becoming aware of the things you want to bring into your life. So, for example, if you're constantly thinking, when you get pregnant, this is a prime example, when you have a baby, when you get pregnant, you will suddenly notice pregnant women everywhere. And I'm telling you, you will not see a pregnant woman until you get pregnant, or your best friend is pregnant, or someone close to you is pregnant. You suddenly buy a new car, you suddenly buy a Ford. Suddenly you start seeing loads of Fords everywhere you go. There's like hundreds of them. So the thing that you're paying attention to, you're suddenly aware of it. And because you're suddenly aware of it, it looks like, my gosh, suddenly there's so much of this all around me and it wasn't here before, but it was there before. You just didn't notice it because your awareness was somewhere else. So when you want more in your life, you need to really shift your awareness. And I think that is something that comes with personal development, because when you start on your personal development journey, you have to shift your focus to internally, to yourself. You have to learn who you are. You have to learn to love who you are. You have to start healing parts of you that need to be healed. And I think it's a really important part of a personal development journey, particularly to find, the parts of you that maybe you're not quite happy with. And like I said, what I do in the evening, I do a review of my day, and like, how did I deal with my son? Did I do that to the best of my abilities? What can I do better next time? So that's personal development, because I'm looking to better the way I respond in situations and do things. And I think, when you start paying attention to things like that, you start bringing a lot more positivity into your life. I just think it's a natural natural progression.
No, I agree.
Absolutely.
And I think, when like kind of going back to the law of attraction and manifestation, there's so many people that genuinely just think, oh, well, if I just sit there every day and imagine myself in this big house, I'll have a big house. But you kind of have to start showing up as that person. You have to, start behaving like that person. You have to, if you want to be a better person, you have to actually start behaving. And that's when you have to kind of go inwards and say, I don't necessarily like the way that I handle certain situations. Why is that? What triggers that? What activates that part of me? Is that because of X, Y, and Z? I have like I know that I'm a bit of a control freak, and my friends will be listening to this podcast going, a bit of a control freak. I'm a lot, I like to control my situations, but I know that that's because I've had experiences in the past that have kind of caused me to lose control of things. So I like to make sure I control it. So that's something I'm really trying to work on, is kind of, not being like activated by the lack of control.
We've talked about what we've done in our lives with our personal, or sorry, what we're doing at the moment with our personal development, and manifesting, and focusing on what we feed our mind and our body and our soul. Something that we really want to talk about as well and touch on is the physical side of personal development, and things like your self-confidence and your body image, your self-image, and how that makes you feel. Because I think for both of us, especially, growing up and kind of going through different ages, teens, 20s, 30s. I'm now in my 40s. We've both had two babies as well. Body image is something that has been a huge part of both of our lives. And with that, being said, when your body image isn't good, it affects how you feel about yourself. And I think when you're looking at personal development, you have to look at how your body image makes you feel and how you can help that. Because when you don't feel good about the way you look, it really has a knock-on effect on the way you feel, you know, your state of mind, everything. And I know for one, I really struggled, especially when I was younger, with, you know, feeling very insecure and not happy with the way I looked. And we were talking just now, actually, and I was saying to you about how, you know, for me, body image is something that is constantly there, even to the point where I can look back now on photos of me from a year ago where I thought I just had so much weight to lose. And, you know, I look back on those pictures now and I'm like, God, actually looked really good. Why was I so worried about it? And it just goes to show that, you know, personal development is a lifelong thing. I mean, it's something that you have to focus on and work at every day, because it's so easy for doubts and insecurities to creep in, I think.
Mm. No, I completely agree. And especially when it comes to body image and self-confidence, like that is a consistent thing. You have to keep up the self-development and the work on that side of things, because there's so many outside influences that can make you
Mm.
then start to doubt how you look, feel insecure about how you look, especially like now. I still have a bit of a weird relationship with my body. You know, I still kind of fat shame myself, but
Mm.
you know, like I don't necessarily care about what other people think. I'm not overly bothered by what other people think. But I remember when I was a teenager and, you know, body image and self-confidence was such a big issue for me. Like, and that
Yeah.
was something where I really cared about what other people thought. And I think, like I was saying to you earlier, I think the reason for me being so conscious was because I started having to take medication for my mental health when I was 14. So, and obviously, anyone who has taken any form of antidepressant, antipsychotic, anything like that knows it makes you gain weight like crazy,
Yeah.
because it absolutely annihilates your body's ability to burn fat. Like, and I'm still struggling with that now. Um, so then when you're a teenager and I felt like I was starting to gain weight. I felt like everyone was looking at me and everyone was judging me and everyone was thinking, oh no, what's she done with her? You know, she's put on weight, and oh, why has she done her hair like that day? And like you think about everyone is so, you just assume everybody's looking at all of the things you're insecure about. And I think if I knew about personal development back then, I probably wouldn't care as much. But, you know, it was
Yeah.
a huge thing, especially when you're a teenager and early 20s. Like, it's such a big deal. And it's so much harder now for the kids because they have the internet. Like, we didn't have the internet when I was a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah, I agree. Influencers and
Mm,
unrealistically edited or photoshopped photos of people with, I mean, stomachs that just aren't even anatomically
no,
correct. Is that the right word?
literally, yeah, the most
Yeah.
unattainable body image I've ever seen in my life
Yeah, yeah.
comes off social media.
Absolutely crazy. And I remember something that my mum said to me before was, I don't know why you're so worried about what everyone else is going to think of you. They're all too busy worrying about what everyone else is thinking about them.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But looking back on it now, I'm like, what a true statement that was. You
Yeah.
know, I was so worried, like you, when I was a teenager, about what I was wearing, whether my spots were showing up, did I have makeup on, what would people think about the way I looked, and feeling so insecure with
Mm,
myself. But she's so right. I think all teenagers, you know, struggle
they
with
do.
that. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think your mum was totally like on the money with, because
Yeah.
actually if you think about it, like if you really break it down, when you're a teenager, you're constantly worried about what everyone is thinking of you. So
Yeah.
every other teenager is also worried about what everyone's thinking of them. So they
Yeah.
don't care about you because they're too busy
It's
caring
too
about
focused.
themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
nobody cares. And like in the nicest possible way, throughout the rest of your life, nobody cares. No one
Yeah.
cares what you look like. No one cares if you're in Tesco's in trackies or a fancy
Yeah.
outfit. Like, people are so more concerned about what's going on in their own lives and what's going on in
Yeah.
their own heads to really care about
What?
what you're doing. And I
Yeah.
wish I knew that back when I was a teenager.
I wish I believed it when I was told
Well, yeah,
it.
I probably
I
was
really
told it, I
do.
just didn't believe it.
I wish I believed it. But I think a big part of working on your kind of body image and your self-image is taking care of yourself. And I
Self-care.
think when you make sure that you know, have a good relationship with exercise and movement, and I know even if you're in a wheelchair or you can't move or you're disabled in some way, there's things you can do to help you with your body image. There's always something you can do. You just have to find the right thing, you know, for you, because I have a lot of people say to me things like, oh, but I have fibromyalgia, I'm in an awful lot of pain, I can't always move. And I get that, I understand, like I
Mm,
have the same, I have fibromyalgia as well, I know what a flare-up feels like, but I just make sure that it's taken me a really long time to learn this. And I think this has been a big part of learning to love myself and learning my boundaries and what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And honestly, making mistakes over and over and over again until I realized what I was doing to myself. But a big part is not pushing myself to my absolute limits on the days when I feel like I can,
yeah.
but more like a slow and steady. So I know that whereas, you know, when I was younger, I could easily walk 5 miles or jog 5 miles, and I, you know, did half marathons, and I loved to push myself in the gym with weights and things like that. I can't do that anymore because I could do that one day and then I could spend a week unable to move in
Recovering.
absolute agony. Yeah. So I just take my time. I space it out. So I make sure that I get a good walk in each day. I try not to focus so much on like hitting 10,000 steps a day. I just make sure that I get in a walk or a
Mm,
walking workout at home, and I, you know, do a little bit of strength training, and I don't push myself to crazy levels anymore. I've learned that slow and steady works a lot better for me. So it's all about, you know, learning yourself, as we've said in,
mm,
you know, earlier on in the podcast. It's all about learning who you are and learning to love the things that you can do, I think, and not hate yourself for the things that you can't do. That was a
yeah.
huge thing. But when you start taking care of yourself, you know, you can't help but feel better about yourself.
Yeah. No,
You
I
know,
think
you
so. I think if you when you start really like respecting yourself enough to take care of yourself, eat, like eat good food, exercise as and when you can, like, make sure that you are, and even sometimes like, and I know when it comes to like, struggling on the kind of mental health side, I know that self-care becomes the last thing anybody wants to do. But
mm,
just having a good, like routine, daily routine of brush your teeth, wash your face, brush your hair, like those kind of things where you actually just take those times to just respect yourself enough to wash your hair regularly and wash your
yeah,
face. And like, I know it's hard when you're in a darker mental health space, and like that's a whole different topic. But once you start to do that on a regular basis and really pay attention to, hydrating your body, because, when your body's hydrated, it works on all cylinders rather than
yeah.
half cocked the whole time, and I used to be terrible with water intake. I genuinely used to think that, iced coffee classed as water, and it absolutely doesn't. Um, so, but when you actually take that time to be like, I'm going to look after myself, I'm going to, have a good skincare routine, I'm going to, just do the daily things to kind of look after yourself, everything else starts to feel better. You then start to feel less, insecure because you're respecting yourself. And if you respect
Yeah,
yourself, then other people will respect you.
I totally agree with that. And even when you were saying about, you know, when your mental health is suffering, to just, you know, if even if you just keep brushing your teeth, honestly,
Mm.
I've related to that so much. Like I have had times where brushing your teeth is such a huge thing. And like, I don't think people give enough credit for the difference that brushing your
Mm.
teeth can make you feel when you're in one of those slumps,
Oh God, yeah.
because it's such a like a small thing that you can do. But when you get like, if you've been in a bad place for a couple of days and you haven't brushed your hair, washed your face, brushed your teeth or anything like that, you don't feel good. I mean, that freshness that you get from brushing
Mm.
your teeth is like, oh gosh, I've really done something good for myself today. It can really change how you feel.
And it
it's
really
it's
like,
crazy. It's my
yeah, it just makes you go, oh, I just did one thing for me. And it's just do
Yeah,
that one thing every single day, even if you don't feel
yeah,
like doing anything else.
yeah.
Like I now, without fail, will always wash my face and brush my teeth before I go to bed,
Me
without
too.
fail,
Yeah,
because that's my one thing. And I actually really look forward to it of,
same.
washing my face and feeling, clean and
Yeah,
looked after, and I'm respecting my, skin and my body enough
yeah.
to wash it and look after it. And
It's funny because I totally, I totally understand that. It took me years to get into a habit of being consistent with washing my face,
mm,
and that might gross some people out, but hopefully not. Hopefully, a lot of people are like, totally get that.
be like,
How
yeah,
many
me too.
times have you been tired, wrecked, or whatever, and you've gone to bed with the makeup on?
Oh,
Or you've just used some kind of wipe that you found by the side of your bed to try and scrub off a bit of mascara or whatever. And you just feel grimy. Then when you wake up in the morning, your skin feels bad. If you've got skin like me, you probably break out in 500,000 spots. But that whole thing of like, what I have such a simple skincare routine. And we were talking about this the
yeah.
other day, weren't we? I literally use a really sensitive face wash and a really nice moisturizer. Each night before bed, I have to do it and
Hmm.
brush my teeth. And those are things that are now, it's got to a point where that's non-negotiable. It doesn't matter how tired I am.
Yeah,
I will, even if I've been sat in bed watching TV and I'm starting to fall asleep, I will get up and go and wash my face.
yeah. And I think that's like having those like non-negotiable self-care things,
Yeah.
it does wonders for your body image, like,
Yeah.
and your self-confidence. Because if you look after yourself and respect your body, respect yourself, then that's the kind of vibration and energy you're giving off. So people are
Yeah.
then going to return that.
Yeah.
They will return what you're putting out. So if you're putting out this self-deprecating, negative body image and, oh, I'm so insecure, oh, I need to look the certain way, otherwise I can't possibly leave the house, then people are going to return that energy to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
all about, and this goes back to obviously what we were talking about with when it comes to manifesting, it's all about what you're putting out there. It's
Yeah.
the vibration you're putting out there. And I think, every aspect of self-development and personal development and growth and healing all comes down to the mindset you're in is the energy you're putting out, and what you're putting out,
Yeah.
you're going to get back. That's
Yeah.
like the simple maths of
It really, really is. And like what you were saying there about the self-respect, when you respect yourself, and even if it's very small to start off with. Like if you're in a place right now where you're, really insecure, or in a place of fear or paranoia or anything like that, or you're having a bad, mental health time, if you can make it non-negotiable with yourself that you will drink even 1 liter of water a day and brush your
mm,
teeth each day, then you will start to feel better because you're giving your body that respect. If you make yourself do just those two things, you start to respect yourself, and you start to, when you respect yourself, you don't tolerate disrespect from other people towards you.
yeah,
So you start an upward spiral by doing even just one thing for yourself each day, and learning to respect yourself that little bit. It does start an upward spiral, and it might take a little bit of time, but you will end up, feeling that little bit more confident in yourself,
yeah,
having that little bit of extra love for yourself. And like you were saying then about like the manifesting and the energy that you put into things is what you get out. It really is. And there is no better place to put energy into than yourself.
yeah,
Like the
100%.
the more you pour into yourself, the more you learn to love yourself, the more you work on little things that will help your confidence, help your self-image, and help you feel better about who you are as a person, then the more that's going to grow. And I think that's really what me and you have done our whole life.
Mm,
And whether that's through our body image, by us, making healthier choices bit by bit. For me, giving up smoking was one of those things, and
yeah.
going to the gym and starting to exercise more, eating healthier foods, making sure that I drink some water, trying to cut out, like with you as well, cutting out drugs and alcohol, and moving on and trying to be a better person. Alongside of that comes, the self confidence and the self respect. So making sure, just like what we said there, things like washing our faces each night. I
Mm.
mean, I've always struggled with my skin. So me now knowing that I do everything I can to look after myself, I never used to leave the house without a full face of makeup on.
Oh, same.
I can't remember the last time I put makeup
No,
on.
literally the last time I wore makeup I can remember was actually only a few weeks ago because I went to my friend's daughter's first birthday, so I had makeup on.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
that, it was my work Christmas party in December. Before
Yeah.
that, it was July for my best friend's wedding. Like,
Yeah.
I go to work with, like, obviously people listening to this can't see, but you can see me. This is how I go to work. I have
Yeah.
mascara on, and that is it. Like,
That's to say, like, if I put any bit of makeup on, it would be a
mm,
bit of mascara and that. But I can guarantee you, when I do, I forget I've got it on. I'll rub my eye, and then I've got
yeah,
like a black smeared face. But it's just for me, and people listening might not understand. If you didn't know me when I was a teenager, if you haven't known me through my adult life, you haven't seen what my skin has been like. And it was bad. I mean, I had really bad acne and it never left. I got teenage acne and it just set up camp on my face and
yeah,
stayed. There was no other bit of my body that was affected. And I used to wish, I used to see people with like spots on their back, but a clear face. And I'd be like, oh, I wish that all the spots on my face would disappear to my back.
yeah.
I would do anything to have a clear face because I never lifted my head up. I always kept my head down and I didn't want people to I wouldn't look people in the eyes. So you could see that I had no confidence in myself
Mm,
because I was so stressed about my skin. So for me now to be like that confident in my skin that it's not even a thought that crosses my mind to put makeup on, that like I'm so happy just walking around town without any makeup on. I'm
yeah.
not phased at all. That's been a huge part of my personal development
Mm,
because it's been a part of, like looking after myself and, my skincare routine and all of that. So for me, that was, it sounds, like such a small thing, but it was a massive thing for me.
yeah, and I
Um,
was exactly the same. I used to obviously full face of makeup. I spent 4 years working with an online makeup company. So my
yeah.
whole thing was makeup. I had
Mm,
to put makeup on every day because I had to sell makeup. So
yeah.
how can you sell makeup if you don't wear makeup? Like,
Yeah.
I was getting up, like, this was pre-Darcy, obviously, and this was when Grace was still living with her dad. But I would get up for work like an hour and a half to 2 hours before I needed to leave the house
Wow.
so that I could put on a full face of makeup, including foundation, concealer, contour, highlight, take a
Wow.
bajillion different photos, have some crazy mascara, eye makeup. I can't even remember the words anymore. It's been so long. Like, my eyeshadow used to always have to be like blended within an inch of its life.
Wow.
And it looked amazing, don't get me wrong, but I was the biggest catfish you'll ever see in your whole life because I did not look like that when I woke up in the morning. Like, I genuinely used to joke that Ross was married to two different people. One
Yeah.
was this troll that lives under a bridge, that's who he wakes up next to, and the next person is the one that appears from the dressing room ready to go to work. So he's like
Just
two different
beautified.
people. But
Um,
then when obviously I was in lockdown and I left that company and I joined a company that was definitely more about like nutrition and weight loss and that kind of stuff. And then I wasn't wearing makeup because I was in lockdown and I couldn't leave the house. And that
yeah.
was the turning point. And surprisingly, the turning point for my skin. I went from getting really, really bad cystic acne to the point where I couldn't lie on one side of my face to
Yeah.
having completely clear skin that now only
Yeah,
breaks
your
out
skin
for a
is
moment.
glowing.
Like, and I've literally got nothing. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm doing this as if the people listening can see. It's only you.
But your skin is actually glowing now. And,
Yeah,
again, that's from you learning how to look after yourself and making
yeah,
sure you've got those non-negotiable routines. And I think that when you have respect for yourself, other people naturally, start to respect you.
mm,
Or maybe it's not people that were disrespecting you. Maybe you just realize that you're worth a little bit more than being around certain types of
yeah,
people. And then, the people that you are around see that you respect yourself, and they naturally have a higher level of respect for you than
yeah,
they maybe did when you weren't in such, a good place. And I think that that's probably a good point to lead on to something else that we wanted to talk about with personal development, which was setting healthy boundaries with
mm,
yourself and with other people. Um, and I think that for me, this has probably been the hardest thing to learn on my personal development journey, the art of saying no to people,
mm,
realizing that I don't have to agree or say yes to everything all the time, and that setting healthy boundaries for myself isn't a sign that I am not a very nice person, or any of those things. Is actually a sign that I respect myself enough to know that if something doesn't feel good, or if it makes me feel in any way too stressed out, or it pushes me for time, if if it if it makes me feel stressed is a big thing. Like
yeah,
if something makes me feel stressed or unhappy, or if being around a certain person leaves me feeling drained or negative, I've learned probably just in the last couple of years how to set healthy boundaries. And
mm,
that I've also learned that, what, it's actually quite all right if I unfriend that person or unfollow that person, and on social media, and don't have that influence in my life because it makes me feel in a certain way.
yeah,
And it's not necessarily, it's not that I harbor ill feelings towards anyone, or that I'm not a nice person or anything like that. It's just that these things don't tie in with where I'm at in my life at this point in time. So instead of going against the grain and stressing myself out or upsetting myself or other people, it's easier to just set up a boundary and say, actually, no, I can't do that today. Um, or, okay, I'll block myself from that
mm.
piece of negativity, whatever it may be.
And I think setting boundaries like that, I think, is the ultimate self-care. Like, it's the
Yeah,
ultimate, like, it's self-preservation at the end of the day. Like, and it doesn't make you a bad person to say no to somebody. And I still have this problem. I'm
yeah,
still a horrendous people pleaser. I'm getting so much better with being like, no, I can't do that today, or no, I don't want to go to that place, or
yeah,
distancing myself from people that make me feel less than, or make me feel negative or drained,
yeah,
or are the kind of people that just take, take, take and don't give you anything back. They just
yeah,
expect everything but give nothing. And like, I do, I'm still quite bad for it, but I'm now consciously aware of it. So I
yeah.
try really
It's very
hard.
hard to stop.
It is. It's like an addiction of its own, being a
Yeah,
people pleaser, because
it
I
is.
I just want people, and I think this goes all the way back to childhood. I just want
Yeah,
people to like me. I
yeah,
just want people to think, oh God, that Charlotte, she's so great, she's so helpful, she's always there for anyone. You ask her and she's there. You
yeah,
ask for something, she'll do it. You need this, she'll be there.
yeah,
Like, I've always wanted to just be that person, but
yeah.
that's so bad for you. Like,
It really is.
so
And I
bad for you.
I totally think that it links to trauma, past
I do.
trauma, abuse, or childhood trauma. And I also think that it might have a bit of a link into, maybe if you've got attachment issues and things like
Yeah,
that, because you
abandonment
want,
issues.
yeah, about that's the word I was looking for,
Yeah,
because you want people to want to be around you, and you want, to feel wanted. So naturally being that yes person gives you
yeah,
that little dopamine hit that you're looking for, and that little bit of oh, these people do like me.
Yeah,
But I think, yeah, learning to love yourself enough to not need that definitely helps your healing journey so much. But
mm,
I think that this is probably the hardest part of a healing journey,
I agree. I agree.
especially as it's the bit that we're both kind of a little bit stuck on right
Yeah, and
now.
it's the bit that I think is like, it is the hardest bit because
Yeah,
one thing that's going to happen when you start to focus on yourself, and I think it's important to mention it, especially if someone who's listening is right there on day one.
mm,
They're day one, today they've gone, I found this podcast, and today's the day that I'm going to start working on things.
yeah,
You're going to lose people in your healing journey, and
yeah,
that's fine. And I think that's the hardest part because, especially if you're like me and you're a people pleaser and you're scared of abandonment and you've got attachment issues, like you don't want to lose people. You don't want people to walk out of your life because you think
yeah,
that's just the end of the world and you can't live without those people. But
yeah,
you absolutely can because you're going to be a better person without it. And,
yeah,
I lost a couple of pretty big friendships over the last few years. And I genuinely thought I was never going to be able to be okay without having that person as my best friend.
yeah,
Actually, as the years have gone on, I'm now like, do you know what? That was for the best because
yeah,
actually I felt, and this is no disrespect to those people because I don't think it was deliberate, but I felt so incredibly drained by those people
yeah,
and so much like they were just sucking the life out of me,
yeah,
whether it was on purpose or not. I don't want to speculate whether it was something they did deliberately, but you're gonna lose people, but it is
yeah.
for the best.
Always for the best when
Yeah.
those things happen. And I think people, I think we said it earlier on, I'm not sure, but impermanence and change is like the very essence of human nature.
Mm,
Nothing stays the same. We have four shifting seasons each year. People grow, they go through different parts of life, experiences shape you, and things happen that shape and shift your journey. And the person that you may have been best friends with when you were 16 is probably not, in
mm,
all honesty, going to be the person that you're best friends with when you're 26, because your life will change that. And so at the time you might think, I couldn't be without this person, but as you grow older you realize that you meet different people at different parts of your life, and they will show you something about yourself, and you'll have a bond with them, or of some kind. It may be positive, it may be negative, but there's always a lesson to be learned there. And then sometimes those journeys come to an end, and it's
yeah.
not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that your journeys are going in different ways, or your healing journeys, or your, self-discovery journeys have brought you to a place where you don't mesh well with that person
Mm,
anymore. And I think, if some people are going through a period in their life where there may be draining energy from other people, or if they're in a victim mindset or something like that, I don't know if it's necessarily a deliberate thing. I just think it's their journey, that part of their journey. And I know for sure I've probably been that person
mm,
in my life that has been like, I know for sure when I'm insecure, or especially when I was younger, when I was insecure and no self-confidence and paranoid, I would imagine I was probably quite a draining person to be around
yeah.
sometimes, just because of the energy that I had about myself, and that neediness and that want to be liked, and
Mm.
that kind of over clinginess with people that can drive a lot of people away.
I think,
If
to be
we're being
honest,
honest.
I think I was probably the same, like especially when I was going through the dark period of my life.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was addicted to drama and negativity and gossip, and I
Yeah.
used to seek it out sometimes. Like I'll be the
Yeah.
first to hold my hands up to say that I used to make choices based on reaction. Like I
Mm.
used to, and this is going to paint me in a really horrendous light, but like I could deliberately go and sleep with somebody because I knew it was going to be dramatic when the friendship group found out. Like,
Yeah.
or I would deliberately go and befriend somebody because it would upset somebody else because I
Yeah.
knew that was just gonna come back and be the most talked about drama, because
Yeah.
then I would be the center of the friendship
Attention.
group and the
Yeah.
center of attention. And there
Yeah.
was so many things, like, probably to a certain extent, taking drugs was an attention thing. Like, I needed to
Yeah.
be something to somebody, so I'm going to be a mess to my family. Like, I
Yeah.
know that sounds bad, but like, these are all things, and I probably was that person. So
Yeah.
it's okay that those people that I was around at that point are now no longer in my life, because
Yeah.
we've gone our separate ways. And one,
Yeah.
like, something I heard from, and probably, like, if I go back over these podcasts, I probably reference her all the time because I swear I'm like a little bit obsessed. But I'm like, follow everything that Gabby Bernstein does. Like, I find
Mm.
everything she does resonates with me so much. And I think it's because she's also an ex-addict. And so I think and she's been through quite a few of the same traumas that I have. So I think we connect in that way. But she always
Mm.
refers to relationships and friendships as universal assignments. Like,
Mm.
people are given to you to teach you something about you, or you to teach them something about them.
Yeah.
So, and those people may stay in your life long term, they may be a short term thing, or they may be somebody who you're repeating the same lesson over and over again with someone in a different body to
Yeah.
teach you something really important. And I know that stuff that's happened to me definitely over the years is I've had a lot of lessons repeated over and over again with the same people and with different people to teach
Yeah.
me, uh, a lot of things. So I think it's okay to lose people when you start to go through your healing journey. And as when you set boundaries as well, you're definitely going to notice the people who are in your life because they're on the take, if they
Yeah.
want something from you. When you
Yeah.
start to, like, raise your vibration and actually have some self-worth and go, no, do you know what? I'm better than that. I'm better than being treated the way that you treat me. Those are the people that you are going to lose. And to be honest, that's absolutely fine. And I think
Yeah.
you should be okay with that, because you don't need
Yeah.
those kind of people in your life.
Yeah, it's so true. I really liked what you said there as well about the friendships and relationships being assignments,
Mm,
to learn from. I fully agree with that. I couldn't agree with that anymore. And there's like what I was saying earlier, when I review my actions over the day, that's something that I do every day as part of my personal development now. And when you start evolving a little bit, or growing or developing, um, those kind of things, friendships do phase out and
mm.
new friendships come in, and relationships and friendships. And like you were saying, behavioral patterns and pattern repeating. I have done that over and over and over again. Even if we look at like relationships, if you look at my first relationship, what an absolute disaster that
Yeah.
was. And I heard somewhere, and I don't know, was it on a movie? Did I read it in a book or something like that? But I heard somewhere someone saying you can literally tell the state of my mental health by looking back over my personal relationships.
Yeah.
And I
I think that's a meme
resonated
too.
with that so hard. I was like, oh my God, you can actually see me. Like, if you look at my past relationships, you can actually see me being an absolute wreck with no, love for myself at
Mhm.
all. So, like, as you watch the relationships grow, like, each one is not quite as bad as the one before, until I'm now, with my husband in an amazing relationship, because
Yeah.
I'm in a place where I truly do love the person that I am.
I
But
think
like,
that's,
when
yeah.
you look back over it, it's like, oh yeah, I can really see the trouble this girl was in for years.
Yeah, you
But
can really see where your headspace is at based on who you were
yeah,
dating at
yeah.
that point. Yeah, 100%. I
Oh
agree.
dear, she was not in a good place with herself back then. But yeah, I really agree with that. And I think that um learning to set boundaries, I think, is something that people are always confused with as well. So I do have a little list of some things that you can ask yourself to help with, setting boundaries with people. It's usually best to set your boundaries in your relationships, whether they be friendships, actual, relationships, or work relationships, anything like that, early on in the relationship.
Mm,
But
yeah.
these sort of things, it might take you a bit of time to get to know someone or realize that you need to have some boundaries in place. But it's always going to help strengthen a good relationship anyway, no matter when you put them in.
Mm-hmm.
So like if it's with work, if you notice that they start wanting you to stay on extra hours all the time or giving you extra workload that you shouldn't really be doing and it starts to get too draining, it's good to have a healthy boundary in place there where you can feel like you can say no
Yeah.
without it affecting anything that you're doing. So you want to be asking yourself questions like when it comes to relationships. So if you're going to have boundaries, you need to understand what your needs are, because it's really hard to have your needs met if you don't know what they are.
Yeah.
So to understand what your needs really are, there are some questions you can ask yourself. So those would be, what traits do you like to see in relationships? Like, what traits do you like to see when you look at other relationships? What makes you think, oh my God, those people are such good friends, I'm envious of that relationship. I'd love to have a friend like that, or a relationship like that, or a work friend like that, or a boss like that. And what behaviors bother you? So
Yeah.
what do you look at and go, oh, gosh, I couldn't handle that? You need to make a note of those sorts of things. Also, maybe what qualities do you admire in people? So you need to know the positives and the negatives. And how do you like to spend your time and what makes you feel like happy and fulfilled? So you need to know like what your time is as well, like how much time can you give to a relationship, things like that. So you also need to know then, if you're setting boundaries, how does someone make you feel? So you need to know if the other person, when you talk to them, do they make jokes that make you feel uncomfortable? Or do they talk about other people? Maybe they like to gossip. Does that make you feel uncomfortable? Or do they, make jokes or kind of snide comments about you that make you feel disrespected? So that's really important that you pay attention to those, because that's the sort of thing that you can say, actually, that makes me feel very uncomfortable when you say that. So please don't say that sort of thing around me anymore.
Yeah.
Do they do anything that makes you feel physically uncomfortable or unsafe? That is obviously, a red flag. Do they raise their voice in anger at you? Do you have a boss that thinks that they can shout to you or talk down to you in any kind of bad way? That's something that, certainly for me, it's something that I don't like. I don't like being shouted at by people. It's something that I will say, you don't need to shout at me. Don't do it again, or I'll just walk away.
Yeah.
Do they make you feel pressured to do things? Like you have to say yes, you have to do that, you have to do this, or they're going to get upset with you. So do you feel like overwhelmed by their requests and their needs and their wants? This can start making you want to ghost someone, you want to
Mm-hmm.
not be around them. It can just start making you feel, not even them as well, it can just start making you feel like my space is being really invaded. So if you don't set a boundary in there, you're going to start stressing out. And do you feel, if they're kind of trying to control you or infantilize you, or just, do they make you feel like you're not in control of what you're doing at all? That's another sure sign that you need to set some boundaries in there. So those are kind of things that you can make a quick note of if you're not sure, like how you feel about boundaries. If you're not sure what a boundary is or how to go about setting it, those are the kind of questions that you want to be asking yourself and looking at, and making a list of.
Yeah. Do you know that I absolutely love that? And I think, and it's just literally popped into my head, I do think a good podcast that we need to record is on setting boundaries, how to do it, how to really
Yeah.
really like map it out for people, because everything you said made complete sense to me, but
Yeah.
I've been working on setting boundaries for years. So
Yeah.
I think we should write that down as a topic to do. But just also on the topic of, setting things and having your list of boundaries, I wanted to make sure we mention that we're going to put together a Amazon book list. So of all the books that we read or have read, that we recommend on personal development, self-development, insecurities, confidence, spirituality, healing, growth, all the stuff that we've read over the years. And between us, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but we're going to put together an Amazon, like a wish list of like a book list. So I'll link it in the description when I upload this podcast. So you'll be able to kind of go away and get hold of some of the reading materials that we've spoken about in previous podcasts and probably will talk about in podcasts to
Future
come.
ones. Mm.
Because for me, like I said in this one, like knowledge is power, reading is healing. Like that is how I, work through stuff is reading. And there's been so many books that I want to put on this list that have been really,
Yeah.
really important along along this like journey of self-development and personal development. So we'll put that together and link it for you guys.
Yeah, I think we'll put a link on the Facebook page as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely. We'll make sure that it's on our business page and yeah, any other kind of social platforms that we put together, we'll make sure you will have access to it because
Yeah,
it'll be a really good resource so that you've got somewhere to turn if you feel like you need some help in some direction. There will
and
be,
guidance.
yeah, there'll be something in there for everybody for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be quite an extensive list because I think between the two of
Mm.
us over the course of the last 20 odd years, we're both readers, we're both
Yeah.
avid readers, and like you say, knowledge really is power. And there's just
Mm.
so many books that would help so many people in so many different ways. It'd be great to compile
Definitely.
a list for everyone.
Yeah, 100%. So I will work on that for us and get that ready for when we upload this episode.
Perfect.
Crazy. Well, that's been an amazing episode. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
really
Really
enjoyed that.
enjoyed that chat.
Yeah, I did too. That was really great. So
And as always, if you want to drop any comments or ask us any questions or leave any tips or advice that you've learned yourself in your own journeys, you can feel free to get in touch with us. We do have a Facebook business page, the Two Charlottes Spill the Tea. And yeah, we would love to hear. We would love to hear from you.
yeah, definitely. And I might actually link that business page down in the description of this podcast as well,
Well, that's a great idea. Yeah.
just for anyone that's listening on Spotify, Apple that we don't have on Facebook.
Yeah.
So we won't have added you into it. So I'll link that down there as well. And oh, and we have a TikTok page too. So we'll put that one
Yeah.
on there as well.
Put that one
Look,
on there
follow
as
us
well.
everywhere. Yeah, follow us on everything. Why not? That's
Like and
amazing.
follow if you like what you're listening to.
Oh, that's it. That's what all the cool kids are saying.
Yeah.
Oh, but no, that was a really good conversation. I really, really enjoyed that. Thank you very much.